This story right here is probably one of the most craziest stories that you're going to hear on my channel that came out of this year. And the headline alone already let me know what direction this was headed in. A couple of my subscribers had told me about it, and it's a story that has not really gained any traction, and I'm guessing it's because of all this election stuff going on. And this story is going to be buried, unfortunately, even though the gruesomeness behind it should gain way more traction. It is currently November 11th, 2020. I found out about the story on November 10th, 2020. And one of the things that stuck out to me in the headline was saying about this boy by the name of Kawan Charles, who went missing. And then when they found his body, it reminded them so much of Emmitt Till. And that's all I needed to see. Because whenever I hear about Emmitt Till, I think of the gruesomeness and the brutality that that boy faced for how long, I don't know, on that night all those years ago. Then I fast forward and think about what happened with Kendrick Johnson down in Georgia back in, what was it, 2013, and how they claim they don't know what happened with him. And now you fast forward to this case right here. When I was scrolling through the Instagram posts, they had showed pictures of the boy, mainly this one right here. And then on the last slide, it had the warning up there where it's like, where they warn you and say, if you click on this button, it'll be a graphic image. I didn't even click on the image because I didn't want to see it. Then I got an inbox from Stephanie Dews, and shout out to her. And she sent me a link to the story. And on the front of that story cover was a picture of him in the state that I did not want to see. And I immediately sent her a message back and said, I wish you did not send me that picture of that boy in his final moments. Now I unfortunately cannot get that image out of my head. That was one of the reasons why I didn't want to see it, but it's no fault to her because she didn't know I didn't want to see it. But now I cannot, I constantly see it. And unfortunately, I had to see it again when I had to look up a picture to do this video for. And I will not show it on this video. I almost don't even want to post the link to the story because I know it's going to lead you to that picture. It is that bad. It's almost worse than Emmitt Till. It is horrific. I can describe it to you. In the picture, his face looks completely blackened, almost like he was burnt. A side of his mouth is gone. Like you can see the skeletal. You know how when a dog retracts his mouth and you can see the fangs all the way to the back? That's what the side of his mouth looks like. His face is completely almost charcoaled. Nothing like how he looks right here. Like I said, I cannot bring myself to even look at the screen as I do this video because on the side of this picture, if I look down to the side out of my peripheral, I can see that image. It is like, people ask me, Torian, how is it that you're able to do these videos? And I said, sometimes I don't even know because I can allow myself to take the emotions out of it. But it's stories like these, which is why I also question, why do I do these videos at the same time? You would think someone like me doing these type of videos in a story like this, after what I just described to you, I haven't even read a piece of the article yet. You would think someone like myself would need some kind of a therapy to get through these kinds of commentaries and seeing those type of images. Because it's not like I can look at something like that and just completely shun it and just like, oh, that's normal. It's not normal. Now, with that being said, I'm going to try and get through this article. that is coming from the Advocate. It says, family activists demand justice for Kawan Bobby Charles, black teen found dead in rural Iberia Parish. So this lets me know that this happened in, I'm guessing, Louisiana, because whenever I think of Parish, I always think of Louisiana. An Acadiana family is raising questions over law enforcement response in the disappearance and death of 15-year-old Kawan Bobby Charles. Bobby left his father's Baldwin home without permission on the afternoon of October 30th with a 17-year-old friend and his friend's mother, according to a family spokesperson. The family said they reported him missing later that night after attempts to reach Bobby by phone were unsuccessful. His body was discovered by officers in a wooded area in Laurelville on November 3rd. The family says Bobby's father was notified that night, but his mother wasn't notified until the next day. They say their questions have gone largely unanswered in the days since. It's almost as though they tried to sweep this under the rug, said Bobby's cousin, Selena Charles. We not only feel like the family has been let down, but the community, the public, the media. Everybody has questions, not only the family. He was only 15. It could have been anybody's child. And here's the crazy part about it. He was 1 year older than Emmitt Till, because I believe Emmitt Till was 14 when he was murdered, and this boy was 15. Black activists have issued statements asking why an Amber Alert was never issued by the Baldwin Police Department and demanding transparency in the investigation, some comparing his death to a modern-day lynching. A spokesperson of the Baldwin Police Department declined to answer questions for this article, instead issuing a statement. On behalf of the Baldwin Police Department, we are not investigating the death of a body found in Laurelville, Iberia Parish, said Baldwin Assistant Chief of Police Samuel Wise III in an email. However, the Baldwin Police Department will be investigating reasons why the deceased juvenile was missing from his residence in Baldwin. Proper protocol was used to report the juvenile as missing, and all procedures were followed through within the Baldwin jurisdiction. Did you hear that? So they're not going to investigate his death, even though y'all heard me describe how his body looked. But they're going to investigate why he was missing from the residence where he stayed at. If that's not the most half-ass, half-baked BS that I could hear so far from this story. This reminds me of the story I did a couple months ago. Back in June, we had the black boy who was in South Carolina on that boat with his so-called white friends. And he falls off the boat and he allegedly drowns, but they decide not to investigate his drowning after they talked to all of those white kids on that boat, and they all gave different stories and then just concluded that he couldn't swim and that he committed suicide. Like, we're supposed to just believe that. So to me, they're telling us right now that they're not investigating anything. They're just going to let it be right there and only investigate why he was missing from the residence and not why he's dead. Even though if you could see his body, you can clearly tell that this boy was murdered. And I do mean murdered. Iberia Parish Sheriff's deputy said they discovered the body of a 15-year-old around 6 p.m. November 3rd near Ed Brussard Road in Laurelville, but have released little other information in the case. This is a terrible tragedy, said Catherine Bro, spokesperson for the sheriff's office. As a parent, I can't imagine. The family said they were told Bobby was found face down in a creek near a sugarcane field, but they are seeking an independent autopsy because of the condition of his body. Just reading that gives me the Emmitt Till aura, because that's almost how they found his body, in a creek or in bodies of water, and in the same condition, just in two different states. Kawan's face, you can see that it's just about gone. Remember how I told you how like some of his face was gone? It was mangled. The coroner told us that there was no blunt force trauma to the head and no sign of strangulation. But when you look at him, you see something totally different from what the coroner said. Yeah, the coroner is on that BS too. It seems like they're all on the same payroll. A spokesperson for the Iberia Parish Coroner's Office said no information in the case is being released to the public at this time, and the coroner's report could take about 2 months to complete. A graphic photo has been circulating and prompting outrage online. Like I told you, I'm not showing that picture. If you want to go and look for it, you can go right on ahead. The image allegedly of Bobby shows the mutilated face of a black boy who has several open skin wounds and disfigurement so severe that several teeth are visible. The family has retained civil rights attorneys Ron Haley, Diedrich Moore, and Chase Tritchell. In a prepared statement, the lawyers asked for the preliminary findings of the coroner as to the cause of death and answers from the Baldwin Police Department as to why an Amber Alert was never issued in the days that the teen was missing. When it comes to that Amber Alert, there's always been a lot of bias behind it when it comes to black children being missing. They're very selective about it. I bet you had this been a little white boy, they would have probably issued out that Amber Alert well in advance before the times that they're supposed to, because I think they're only supposed to be missing for 48 hours before they do it. This boy was missing since October 3rd. Let's see, the 31st, the 1st, the 2nd, and they found him on the 3rd, the 5th day. Due to the lack of transparency, collective indifference, and moral failings of law enforcement, Bobby's family has been forced to undertake the serious financial cost and enormous emotional stress of arranging for an independent autopsy in order to get any answers about Bobby's death. The cost of this independent autopsy was not just financial for Bobby's family, it has greatly worsened the grieving process by delaying when they can put their child to rest. A GoFundMe has raised more than $70,000 in 3 days for Bobby's family to cover costs of an independent autopsy and burial expenses. The online fundraiser depicts an image of Emmitt Till, the Chicago 14-year-old who was murdered by white supremacists in 1955 while visiting family in Mississippi beside the alleged photo of Bobby. I can't say that it was racially motivated. Say Andre Arsenault, a Lafayette activist who started the GoFundMe for the Charles family. I just know that if you look at the picture of Kawan and you look at the picture of Emmitt Till, there are a lot of similarities, and it does appear that he was lynched. Arsenault, who is involved in the local branch of the NAACP, the Village, and Stan Black, said the family took 8 photos of Bobby's body while confirming his identity to law enforcement. He and other activists said one of those photos was made public to raise awareness of the case only after the family's questions to law enforcement went unanswered for days. Jamal Taylor, a founding member of the Village, and Stan Black, who also involved in the NAACP, said Bobby's family reached out to him last week for assistance. Taylor has spoken out publicly against racial injustice before, notably in the summer death of Trayford Pellerin in the hands of Lafayette police. Taylor said he immediately wanted to help Bobby's family, especially after seeing the images. I saw them and emotion overwhelmed me. It was like someone punched me in the stomach, and I immediately thought, who in the world can do this to a child? If Kawan was a 15-year-old white female, remember what they're headed right into the direction that I was talking about with the Amber Alert. They would have turned the city upside down for her. Lord knows they did when what's her name? Natalie Holloway. They turned the nation upside down trying to find her. It blows my mind the blatant disregard the police department had for the well-being of a black child. It doesn't blow my mind. It doesn't surprise me. Not in the least bit. The Baldwin Police Department was handling the missing person case. The Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office is handling the rest of the investigation. Bro said her agency wasn't alerted to Bobby's disappearance before deputies discovered the teen's body, although she did say his parents were aware that he went to someone's house in Laurelville. The sheriff's office regularly receives alert from other agencies about missing persons cases, but not always. How convenient. Bobby had not lived in the town of Baldwin in St. Mary Parish for long. He moved there recently after getting involved with the quote-unquote wrong crowd. Here it goes. Here comes the demonizing of the victim. You know what they mean when they say the wrong crowd? That's loosely translated for gang activity. In his hometown of Youngsville of Lafayette Parish, according to his family, Bobby is remembered as a quiet teen who struggled academically, in part of dyslexia, his cousin said. He started the year at Southside High School in Youngsville, but had just begun classes at West St. Mary High School. He didn't talk much to people, Charles said. He was always quiet. He liked to fish. He loved to ride his four-wheeler. He had a dog he was in love with. Bobby purchased the pit bull, which he affectionately called My Baby, a few years ago from the same 17-year-old he was seen with the day he went missing, according to Charles. The older teen and his mother are white, like most of Bobby's friends, Charles said. Now it gets even more interesting, because I was wondering what the ethnic background of the teen was that he was with. Remember the story about the boy on the boat in South Carolina and the ones he hung out with. And like I said, the teen that he was this boy was hanging out with, he's still alive. And they were last seen, and they was, as far as the story goes, he was the last one to see him. So now my antennas have gone up. But I'm not going to jump to conclusion, but I'm not going to jump off either. Kawan trusted his friend of another race, Charles said. It was somebody he thought he could trust, and now he's not here today. Just hearing that statement from the boy's father, it sounds like he now suspects something of this 17-year-old that he was with, who, by the way, they have not mentioned by name. Charles said the family believes race was a factor in Bobby's death. Charles said they've also questioned if robbery could have been a factor after a detective told them a large amount of cash was discovered with the body. It would not be unusual for the teen to have $200 to $300 in cash, according to Charles, who said he often saved his allowance and was very frugal with his money. The sheriff's office declined to discuss specifics of the case, including the condition of the teen's body, whether or not the case is classified as a homicide, and if the results of an autopsy are available. Bro did say investigators have interviewed multiple people and physical evidence is being processed. She also noted that the family has been updated of progress in the case regularly and will continue to be updated. Bro reminded the public that police cases are not investigated in 1 hour with commercial breaks. It takes time to investigate any case and collect the evidence needed to make an arrest when necessary. The sheriff's office is doing everything possible, Bro said. We want to do a thorough investigation, and we are doing everything possible to do that. Funeral arrangements are being finalized for Bobby and are expected to take place at the West St. Mary Civic Center on November 21st, according to Charles, who said the public will be welcome to attend. In the meantime, a peaceful protest is set to take place at 4:15 p.m. Wednesday outside of the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office at 300 Iberia Street. Bobby's mother has explicitly asked that it be peaceful, Taylor said. We're going to go with signs and just have our presence felt by the Sheriff's Department. We're standing with the family. We're here to support the family. We're going to fight for Kawan, and we're not going to back down. He's not going to just be another hashtag. And now they said there was an editor's note. They said the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office initially said the body of a 15-year-old had been found November 2nd, which was reported in an earlier version of the story, and they said it was actually found on the 3rd. So I already had that. Wow. This story right here is just crazy. So to really sum it all up, after I described to you how this boy's body looked, he went missing from his father's home. They said he left without his dad's permission. He went with this 17-year-old who we went on to discover was Caucasian. They said many of his friends was not black. That's why it makes me reach back to that story with that boy on that boat back in South Carolina and what happened with him, because they said he really didn't have any black friends himself. And then he goes missing for 5 days. They found his body. I described what it looked like. They said that they're not going to investigate his death, but rather so why he went missing from the house. And then when they mentioned the ethnicity of the boy he was with, now it starts to now the puzzles are starting to come together. It's not complete by far, but now it's starting to form itself that I see what they're doing. And it sounds like to me they're trying to cover up for this boy that he was with. Because we don't even, like I said, we don't even know the name of the boy. And at this point, they probably wouldn't even release it. They probably trying to protect the safety of the boy that he was with. And even his family, I think his dad, are saying that he believes race was a factor. They said they think that it might have been a robbery because they said they found money near his body. So, yeah, looks like this is going to be a story that I'm going to have to throw on the list of stories to stay up to date with, because a lot of red flags are being raised around this story here. Like, nothing is adding up. Nothing is making sense. Like, I told y'all how this boy looked. Like I said, I refuse to show the image. I refuse. But just on the description alone, y'all pretty much get it. It's that bad. It is that gruesome. It looks like a movie prop. It looks like something that it should go into some kind of a zombie movie. Like, that's the best way I could describe it. He almost looks like a zombie. Or something that's mutated or mutating into some creature. And I hate to say it like that, but that's what it looks like. But yeah, a lot of stuff isn't adding up, and it sounds like to me they're trying to protect this boy that he was with, the 17-year-old. It sounds like they're trying to protect him. And when they mentioned that he was Caucasian, I said, yep. And then think about it. The same thing happened with Kendrick Johnson when they found him rolled up in that mat. And they believed that it was those two white boys who I think are both brothers. And we found out why they didn't go after them. And we found out their dad was an FBI agent. Yeah. I think that boy who was with Kawan had something to do with it. Think about it. He was the last one to see him, as far as we know. And who knows who he encountered while he was with him. Like I said, it was probably a setup. It was probably a setup to have this boy murdered. And that 17-year-old, I have a feeling, was involved. But I hope the family continues and they fight and see this through to the end. Because apparently it sounds like the police down there don't want to go further than, oh, we're just going to go and see and investigate why he left the house. That's not enough. You mean you don't want to investigate how he ended up looking like that? Like, that's how he looked like in his last conditions. Like, this boy was tortured. He was tortured to death. And you don't think that's a cause for alarm? And they didn't send out an Amber Alert for him. Now it raises even more questions. Are they all connected? Did they say not to send out an Amber Alert for this boy? It sounds like to me they didn't want him to be found because they were probably in the midst of torturing. I would not be surprised if the torturing of this boy lasted for more than a day before they finally killed him. And then that's when they decided to say, oh, we found him. And they tortured him so badly that they probably tried their best to hide any type of evidence that would lead back to the ones who did it, which is why his body looks so mangled. I'm not an investigator or detective by any means, but when you do enough of these stories and you come by these type of stories often, it's not hard to really put the pieces together when you have a little bit of context. Especially since this is a historical thing. But I'm going to go ahead and end the video right here. Y'all let me know what you think. And I'll talk to you in the next one. And I offer my condolences to this boy's family.